So will we start building iPhones in the USA? That's the subject of today's video.
A little bit about the product that you're going to be doing in Kentucky, Tim.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I step up?
Yes,
here?
please.
This box was made in the U.S., in California. And this glass comes off the Corning line. It's engraved for President Trump. It's a unique unit of one. It was designed by a U.S. Marine Corps corporal, a former one, that works at Apple now.
That's good. He's done well.
Designed it for you. And the base comes from Utah and is 24 karat gold. And it sits, I'll take the liberty of setting it up.
Wow.
Well, let's see. There we go. Congratulations,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
President.
It's
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
The great people of Kentucky. You're going to find it a great place to do business, too. It's fantastic. Isn't that nice? We're doing these things now in the United States instead of other countries.
And yes, isn't it great? We're doing this stuff inside the USA. And if you want to know about doing business with Trump, use small words, speak slowly, talk simply, say nice things about him. And yes, of course, give him gold because he loves gold. And when in doubt, put his name in gold on said object. Trump Apple to announce fresh 100 billion US investment. Okay. And the fundamental question I always have with this stuff is, where are these factories going to be? How many people are you going to employ? And will this end up being real or just smoke and mirrors? I always have these questions. Trump is also tweeting out, have you seen the Sydney Sweeney ad? And I think this is American Eagle. And I noticed the stock was going up. It basically turned into a meme stock after this. And then the Labor Department and the White House and Trump were all tweeting out, join the blue collar boom and build America's future, right? Build America's future. So guys, I'm not against creating jobs in USA. I just always have some fundamental questions of where are said factories, how many people are they going to employ, and will there be enough people willing to do said stuff? And if you guys know my story, I grew up, I worked on a farm, I worked in construction, so I know exactly what these kind of jobs are like. And, you know, I'm 50 now, I'm old, so this would have been back in, say, 80s, 90s kind of stuff. And at that time, a lot of Americans didn't want to do these kind of jobs, so I'm curious how many, you know, would still want to do it. The jobs are going to be different, though, than they were in the past. A lot of it is automated these days, so you don't need quite so many people. So why is Apple doing this? You also have this, and it gets, you know, complicated when you pull this stuff together. Trump doubles India tariff to 50% to punish Russia oil buying. And before, right, Trump was threatening and trying to decouple from China, basically breaking, you know, relationships with China. And so then many companies are like, okay, fine. Maybe we need to now go to India or Vietnam. But it wasn't just U.S.-China relations. It was also that labor costs were rising in China as essentially they're developing more. And so the labor there costs more. And so companies are like, okay, India or Vietnam. But maybe India could be off the table theoretically if Trump is, you know, setting high tariffs over there. I guess he's set to meet with Putin, which is a whole other issue, which I'll make a separate video on. But I do want to go over this stuff because I think it's all connected.
This afternoon, we're pleased to welcome to the White House one of the great and most esteemed business leaders and geniuses and innovators anywhere in the world, Apple CEO Tim Cook. It's an amazing job. Thanks as well to Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick for being here, wherever you may be. Oh, there you are. Hello, fellas. I missed you. Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest. And this is the largest investment Apple has ever made in America and anywhere else. And it's just an honor to have you. As you know, Apple's been an investor in other countries a little bit. I won't say which ones, but a couple. And they're coming home. $600 billion. It's the biggest there is. The company is also unveiling its ambitious new American manufacturing program, which will bring factories and assembly lines across our country all roaring to life. Areas that were not doing so well are doing very well. We have about $17 trillion coming into the United States, which is more than ever before. That's never even come close.
President Donald Trump plans to announce that Apple will commit to spending another $100 billion on domestic manufacturing. Okay, so we're talking about making stuff in USA. The latest pledge by the tech giant to increase U.S. production of its products as it seeks to avoid punishing tariffs on its flagship iPhone. So, they're trying to figure out ways to get around these tariffs if the India thing does indeed go into place. And it's hard for companies to make any sort of plans when Trump changes his mind on a daily basis, right? So what do you do? It says the announcement at the White House on Wednesday includes a new manufacturing program designed to bring more of Apple's supply chain to the U.S., okay, with an eye toward assembling additional critical components domestically. So we're talking about assembling. The language matters quite a bit because, assembled in the USA, made in USA, two different meanings, because you still need the sources stuff. Parts may still be coming from other places. And, for all we know in USA, they're just putting stuff in boxes. Assembling could, and this is where it gets tricky, the end of this stuff could have a wide, definition. And then if you're the Trump people or, you run on bribes, since you're the Trump people, you can change and fudge the rules what assembling could be defined as. But yeah, so I guess they're going to do some sort of announcement with Timmy Cook.
But I think a lot of those companies are coming back, and they're coming back very rapidly. So that's a big statement. 100% tariff. I want to thank you very much, Tim. Would you like to say a few words about your company, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. President, thank you very much for having me here today. You've been a great advocate for American innovation and manufacturing, and I'm grateful for your leadership and your commitment. That's a commitment we share at Apple because American innovation is central to everything we do. Our products are designed here, we're hiring and growing here, and we support 450,000 jobs with thousands of suppliers and partners in all 50 states. Earlier this year, we made our largest ever spending commitment, $500 billion to the U.S. over the next 4 years. That's already yielding results. Earlier this year, we broke ground on a new factory in Houston to make advanced AI servers. And just last month, the very first test unit rolled off that factory's line, proudly made in America.
So back in February, Apple announced this Houston facility they called the new AI server. They're saying $500 billion. This is before. And they were saying, hey guys, 20,000 new jobs across multiple states. But I just want you to understand that they're counting multiple companies here, and they're counting a lot of support jobs and basically fudging the numbers. The actual server factory itself likely won't have that many jobs in it. So before you get too excited, last time they did these kind of stuff where they made these big announcements and they made videos on this was this whole thing called Stargate. It really was called Stargate. And that was SoftBank, OpenAI, and I think Oracle was involved with this, right? So this is the headline from the Wall Street Journal. SoftBank and OpenAI's $500 billion AI project struggles to get off the ground, right? So Trump comes out and make this big announcement. Look at all this money coming in. I don't think they've built anything yet. I'll read it. It says 6 months after Japanese billionaire Masayoshi Son stood shoulder to shoulder with Sam Altman and President Trump to announce Stargate project, the newly formed company charged with making it happen has yet to complete a single data center. So they haven't done anything. And the article went on to say that maybe they're going to do a small data center for like 30 billion, something in that range in Ohio, but they haven't done anything yet. And it's far short of the 500 billion. Then you also have this, this is from CNBC. Trump is hailing the EU's 600 billion investment pledge, but it might never happen. Of course not. So this is from CNBC. Let's read it. It remains to be seen whether the investment will be made, especially as EU does not have the power to force businesses to follow through with their plans, right? So when Trump takes any kind of meeting, he always tells people, guys, like, hey, this is a TV show here. We got to make the numbers as big as possible, and the numbers have to be bigger than the prior numbers. Just say a big number because it'll be awesome. And then most people and countries or reps or CEOs, they don't want to lie. It's kind of weird. Well, frankly, it's lying, and no one really wants to do that. But when you're in the company to Trump, I guess that sort of bad culture, rubs off on you. And you kind of, I'll just say this, it's not lying if you say, hey, we could perhaps pledge a bunch of money for the next 10 years. And you kind of word it so that it's, non-binding. So for example, it says, the investment pledge of the EU is much more smoke and mirrors than a binding commitment. Okay. The EU Commission has no power to bind member states on this, and with the exception of state-owned firms, capitals cannot coerce their national company's choice either. Okay. So this is also from the Wall Street Journal. Same story. Apple to announce additional $100 billion investment in American manufacturing. What are they saying over at the Wall Street Journal here? Apple has made similar announcements dating back to Trump's first administration. Okay. Its investment in American manufacturing still pales next to the investments the company is making in its supply chains in China, India, and elsewhere in Southeast Asia, where nearly all of its devices are made, right? It just costs so much money to do this stuff, and that's why I think, in my opinion, Apple's going to slow walk it. This is why you just see what people are saying around the market. Also, the market seems to believe that we're in a pay-to-play world where companies can buy their way into tariff exemptions, right? That's what it's about. By making commitments to invest in the U.S., even if those investments fall far short of actually reshoring manufacturing, right? So essentially, you're kind of forced to lie in public with this stuff. That's the system that we're in. Again, Trump's trying to make a TV show. And the question would be, are we going to follow up in this? It's kind of like, for example, you go on the show Shark Tank. You guys know this show. And the sharks bid on whatever stupid idea that you have. But you probably think it's a great idea, which is fine. And, they'll say, oh, I'll give you this much money, this much money. If you actually follow up on many of these, quote, investments by the sharks from Shark Tank, some of them, or many of them, don't actually get the money. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. There was a story that came out a while ago. I'll put it up on screen, but I remember reading about that, and it was like, oh, okay. I'm not shocked by this kind of stuff. That's what a TV show is. It's just all for show. And then you got stuff like this, for example, that's also happening today. Swiss president set to leave Washington without lower tariff. And when you go through this kind of stuff, you realize, some of the things that Trump is demanding it's just not possible. And so, for example, I'll read the Switzerland thing. Switzerland's $38.5 billion trade surplus with the U.S. was probably the main obstacle to the deal. The paradox faced by the Swiss president, who is also finance minister, is that any concessions would have been politically costly without meaningfully curbing the trade gap as a nature of overhang. So what is it? Gold, pharmaceuticals, watches, and medical devices. A quick reduction is unlikely. So, for example, if Switzerland wants to make a deal with Trump, you got to come out and announce, okay, we're gonna build every single watch and move all our banks to the USA. I mean, like from the Switzerland's perspective, it's obviously not going to be politically popular, and maybe actually even just be impossible to move operations in a short amount of time. Again, you're just better off for Trump to leave office. So that's what's going on. If there's any updates on this Apple thing, but that's how I read it. I'll love to let you know, but I think it's all smoke and mirrors, and I'm sure the Trump people will act like the money's in the bank and they're already digging ground. But just always ask the fundamental questions. Okay, so where are these said factories? How many jobs are we talking about? Hey, are people actually going to be willing to do it? Oftentimes, too, when they talk about the jobs thing, just a reminder, they'll count jobs created as being the actual people building the factory. So let's say it takes 1,000 people to build whatever factory they're building, but then maybe it's only going to be a couple hundred jobs, right? That would be an example of a data center, even less than that, perhaps. And so there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with how you count jobs. Or they might count jobs that are related to the factory, like, restaurants and services around it, and try to add those in there. But a lot of the stuff is, again, smoke and mirrors and wild estimates. So please share your thoughts on this one, and I'll catch you on the next video.